Good morning, Hacksters! Welcome back to another Hackster Café. I'm so excited to talk to these folks. Gotten to hang out with both of you a bit in real life, but you're also both doing things like beyond the scope of my imaginings that I've never even heard of, so this is going to be a really interesting hour. But right now we're mainly here to talk about Dynacon, which just happened. So welcome, Andy Quitmeyer and Paula Tey. Would you please tell us a little bit about Dynacon and how you all are involved in it?
Sure. Yeah, I can probably introduce a quick little bit of the background and then how we got Paula to also be in charge of all this madness. So we started the first Digital Naturalism Conference back in 2018. It was in Thailand. And it basically started because I was a professor at the time and I was getting really sick of the whole standard academic publishing uh, scenario, the way that people publish in academia. And basically it there's lots of things people complain about, but one of the things I really didn't like is there's all this money that goes into these conferences, especially in the tech world. You have to publish your paper by going to a conference like computer human interaction and stuff like this. Um, and it'll be like $1,000 for a ticket, plus you have to buy, go to this hotel, you have to fly there. There's all
Mm.
this money that gets dumped into stuff like this for people to hang out for like 2 days and kind of work on their PowerPoints while ignoring the other people's PowerPoints they're presenting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you don't really connect with each other. You don't necessarily connect with the place that you flew around the world and burned a bunch of jet fuel. And instead, you're sending a bunch of money to, some blank, boring hotels. And so I decided to take the amount of money that I would normally spend on trying to publish like 2 or 3 papers a year as an academic trying to get my tenure, which amounted to about like $10,000. And I'm like, in kind of like a stubborn, almost childish way, I'm like, I'm gonna make my own conference. And so I took like that $10,000. We rented out part of this island in Thailand with this local partner, with a group called the Diva. They had this.
Mm.
They were running this ship for like ecotourism and setting up a community makerspace on the ship, and that
Oh.
was with Tasneem Khan and Yannick, who ran the Diva. And so we, yeah, we took this money, rented this place, and the first Dynacon was 8 weeks long. So we were
Wow.
there for 2 months on this island, running this conference, and people could come, and it was a super cool success. And having this extra time there let people kind of, explore the place around them, build projects connected to that place. And yeah, I could go on and on about that. But since then, we've done another one here in Panama at my house. This is Dynalab. We're in the jungle, the rainforest in Panama. And then we also did one in Sri Lanka. And in between those times, I met Paula because we started teaching classes together with the Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design in Costa Rica. Uh, and so we started teaching classes there about kind of interacting with nature. And then Paula, do you want to introduce yourself and how you got lured into running Dynacon?
Sure. So I was teaching some of these classes at the Copenhagen Institute of Interaction Design with a former Dynacon participant, Dinosaur, Hannah Perno Wilson, and we were teaching these classes about an intro to electronics, but from a materials perspective. And then when
Mm.
I met Andy, we wanted to teach this class from a materials, but also a kind of like hacking in the wild perspective, which is, I'm sure Andy will talk a lot more about those things. And then after that, it was uh, we had a great time teaching the students, kind of like both like intro to electronics, but also like how do you like maybe do this in the wild, do this in we were teaching in Las Cruces, which is a a research
Field
site in
station. Yeah.
a field station, yeah, in Costa Rica, and then Andy was like, "Oh, like there's this conference that I run, and it'd be so cool to have you join." And I joined for the Sri Lanka one, which was back in 2022. Um, it was a wonderful time. I helped to make um, acrylics plastics press, which was a way to upcycle used acrylic offcuts. Turns out you need both like a lot of pressure as well as heat to take the offcuts and like apply pressure. And this is also very heavily inspired from some of Andy's work too with recycling plastics. So we made that in Sri Lanka and among many other things that happened there. And then I think the conversation went something like, "Hey Andy, if you want to organize this in Indonesia at some point, let me know because I would love to help organize. My family's from Indonesia, and I have always wanted to find ways to connect to, uh, the place where my family grew up, and be working with community there." And so
Yeah.
that's sort of how that got started. And then I guess Harold Tay, who is not related to me, even though we have the same sounding last name, he knew a community in Bali called Sea Communities, and
Ooh.
they work on coral reef restoration and coral reef rehabilitation. And Harold was like, "Hey, this is a really cool community. Maybe we should connect to those people, and maybe we can have a Dynacon there." And so that is kind of what started the connection. Harold introduced us to Elaine, one of the folks at Sea Communities, and 8 months before Dynacon, I went out, checked, scoped out the place, and it was
Wow.
obviously perfect um, for Dynacon of this year. And then we ended up, yeah, that's kind of the rest is history. We spent a month there in June, July.
What you can
So
see on their website right there when you were just at the top, that's an example of how they like grow tiny corals. Um, so that's like it's like if you have like a tree reforestation, I'm more used to. You grow little saplings somewhere and then you transplant them when they get big enough to live on their own. But this is how they do it with corals, and this is kind of one of the core things that that group Sea Communities does. That Paula was showing us cool pictures of when she went on the first scouting trip, and then we got to actually participate in doing this while we were there, which was awesome.
wow. This I'm trying to pull up this link right now of how this isn't strictly related to Dynacon, but it is a recent piece of. Oh, actually, maybe it came out last year. The thing of where they're playing fish sounds to coral, which helps attract fish to the coral beds, which are helping then regenerate the reefs, which is so cool. Oh wait, and this is encouraging coral larvae themselves to recolonize. It's just like so cool what people are doing with all the different ways that people are using different types of technologies to collaboratively grow. And I feel like this is a huge thing that your conference does. You're bringing together people from all different disciplines to collaborate on making this stuff. And I love the set of rules that you have on here. Only 3 rules. You gotta finish something, document it, and get 2 other participants to review your project. So how does that typically end up going? Like, I am guessing that
Yeah.
people collaborate to try and get their things done on time, or do some people go in a little hole and like I don't know. But anything you'd like to share about that, honestly.
I would say the maybe the core philosophy, we touched on this a little bit, kind of guiding Dynacon, is this idea of like contextual crafting, building
Mm.
stuff in context, and the idea that what you make and how you make it and how you think about it is really dependent on your surroundings. If you're making some kind of robot, but you're sitting in an air conditioned lab and you're building it there, you're not necessarily always thinking about changes in humidity or the day night cycle, or if it can resist, the salt that's in sea air, kind of things like that. And it just puts you in a different thinking concept. And so that's kind of, maybe I would say, the most core philosophy. But then from that, we get kind of these other guidelines for getting people to interact and work with the context and also kind of share things. And so we made these three rules so that, one, help people just be like, hey, look, make something while you're here. It's a way that you can interact with the world, interact with each other. Two, you have to document and share it. And that's because, like, hey, open source is the best. You're all going to die. Make something that lasts longer than you. Uh, and then three, we just want to try to emulate, like peer review, right? So we want people to make sure to get some kind of feedback on their projects. And another way that we kind of enforce these rules without actually enforcing them is that nobody's actually allowed to be at Dynacon for the entire 4 weeks that we're there, except for the people organizing it. So we make it so that there's a minimum like 7 day stay, but maximum 3 week stay. And so part of the reason of that is that if you're coming there, sometimes people are like, oh, I have all this time, I'm going to do whatever. But if you're coming there and you want this project to keep going while you are gone, it kind of, almost simulates death. And and
Wow.
so you have to leave and you have to make sure that your documentation gets in if you want other people to keep scanning those coral reefs or whatever you wanted. Um, yeah. And so then how did it go? Paula, do you want to tackle how this came in reality?
Yeah, I mean, it was wonderful. It was chaotic and messy, but also beautiful.
Love
And
that.
yeah, I think people coming together to make things also with the community there, the sea community's hosts and the partners, also with nature. I think just so many beautiful projects that came about at Dynacon and are continuing to happen. Yeah, so Andy referred to one of the projects, which is a lot of people started taking photogrammetry photos for 3D scanning of different objects,
Ooh.
and people started to also take photogrammetry scans of coral underwater too. And that was something that I uh, helped out with or participated in because I got really into scuba diving and taking photos underwater. So I was there helping take photos of the coral in a very you have to take it in a very specific way to like kind of get all of the angles. And it's hard to be buoyant and
Mm.
also maintain stability. But then some of the other Dynacon participants, like Jay, Myoa, and all those other folks, they also were helping to turn them into 3D models through the photogrammetry scans, which is really cool.
Mm. Yeah, and
I have a
you mentioned.
link to that
Oh,
too. I'll ping it to you. Or oh wait, I can't. Oh, in the private chat. Here we go.
ooh, cool.
Check
Yeah.
this out. Kyle, this was an example of this kind of beautiful collaborations. Like Kyle, even though
Wow.
he disappeared earlier in the Dynacon, other people kept doing scans, and then he was able to make this little like gallery of different like corals that people were scanning, and yeah, and this kind of ideas kept passing on.
This is so cool. Paula, I love that point that you made about like how you had to adapt the scanning process to working underwater and dealing with scuba. This phrase used earlier, Andy, contextual crafting. I just got back from DEF CON, and if I may do a minor tangent, I fixed my companion bot. So literally building a robot in a different environment. And, during the process of that, I was making sure not to use hot glue as a stability element because being out in like 110-degree weather, I've experienced hot glue failing because it's hot glue and it melts. And I'm curious about other types of adaptations that people have done to be able to build things in the environment. different environments that you're in.
Yeah. Paula, you want to tell them about the Eka glue? I feel like that's a good
Oh,
example.
that's a great example. And one of another reason I was actually going to, yeah, when we talked about why the Sea Communities is such a great partner is that, so the history with Sea Communities is that the fishermen in DSLS, the Les village in northern Bali. There's a lot of fishermen there, and they used to do this decorative fish um, sort of not just farming, but also capturing these decorative fish to go sell, and that was their livelihood. And they would use this, and it still is their livelihood in some part, but previously they would use cyanide potassium to fish to catch the fish, and it was obviously this toxic
Wow.
substance, toxic chemical that it would make the fish a little bit drunk, so it would make them easier to catch. But then it would also kill the coral around it, and also sometimes even kill the fish. So it was not a sustainable way of farming or capturing these fish. But also the environment that their livelihood was built around was also being destroyed by the act of capturing these fish. So um, they learned how to start fishing using these non-toxic, these nets, a different way of fishing that would be a little bit more uh, non-destructive to the coral, non-destructive to the fish as well. And then they also realized that they needed to regrow some of their coral because all the coral had been destroyed. And so, in doing that, the picture that we saw at the front page of Sea Communities before, when they're doing they're planting the little coral babies into the substrate. Um, they are doing that by they're basically gluing the coral into the substrate, and previously the scientists would come and they'd use this like expensive epoxy from like Singapore and Japan and other places. Um, but Paeka, who is the lead fisherman there, he has always been kind of thinking about like how do we do this with just the local resources that we have in our
Mm.
community. And so he was like, I want to make this epoxy or this kind of glue where I can just go to the hardware store nearby and buy local materials. So he ended up inventing, it's a very simple invention, actually, a mixture of cement and wood glue
Oh.
to create a glue that would actually dry underwater. So you can attach the coral babies on and then let everything dry underwater. You could also plant the coral babies underwater with the glue. And this glue we now call, or Sea Communities now calls Eka glue because it's named after him. And it's just a really cool, wonderful, like he was recently like uh, honored for his inventions in Singapore and other places as well. Um,
Man.
and it's so cool
Wow.
that this kind of uh, local this thing arrives from local needs is now able to be shared around the
Yeah, he
world.
was like the like Patty, like the scuba diving magazine's like diver of the year or something, just back in June
Wow.
or something. It was great.
Super cool. Oh, there's so many ways I want to take this. I'm definitely going to ask you about more about the plastic stuff later on too. But um, real quick, I'd love for us to mention the EDGE AI Earth Guardians contest that's going on Hackster right now. Andy,
Yeah.
you are involved in making this happen, and I think there's a
I'm a
bunch of people.
judge, apparently.
Yeah. So, yeah, would you like to tell us a little bit about it? I can like also take us through the page here and just like show people what's going on if you'd like to.
Sure, yeah. There's a cool contest going on to try to make designs that basically use like Edge AI, which the concept of that is like doing like machine learning stuff, but on very low power, uh, low processing intensive devices that you can use out in the field, out in the wild, things like that. And so for instance, people do things like acoustic monitoring, finding, specific sounds using some kind of machine learning process that immediately inform you that maybe there's an elephant just smashed through a barrier, and people should go over there immediately to help the elephants, and or whatever. But yeah, you can apply for this by until August 15th, and you can win like I think a $500 voucher to help kind of bring your project to actual feasibility. And yeah, we're going to check out everyone's projects. There's even bigger grand prizes. You can get to go to Taiwan. I've never been to Taiwan. I want to try to go to Taiwan.
Me neither.
And yeah, and so it's kind of a tiered project. There's the first round of just trying to pitch these ideas and get some concepts in. That's by August 15th, and then it develops throughout this. If you're in the northern hemisphere, fall. So you can kind of work on that. And I think for me, I was supposed to just give some tips about designing stuff that's supposed to be in the wild. Again, one thing that I can just mention is try to build your thing in the wild or as close to the wild. By wild, I mean places that humans don't have absolute control over it. So even if you like go to like a park or something like that, if you're trying to make something that, I don't know, looks at ants, go where the ants are. Don't necessarily just do it inside your house if you're going to be implementing this thing. So get any kind of real world feedback. And the other thing is think about the people side of this as well. If it's going to be a thing that like maybe park rangers are supposed to use, try to talk with these park rangers. How will they actually use it? Is for instance, there's a thing with the moth box. This is our insect detector.
Yes.
One of the first things, first bits of feedback we had was that the scientists who wanted to use this, they need to go climb up mountains in the forest, in the jungle, without paths on them. And so this thing can't be that heavy or that bulky. And so previously, some of the things, some of the insect detectors people made were like the sizes of like, whole couches or coffee tables. And so we really tried to make this a lot smaller so that people could bring them where they actually wanted to be able to use them. So really get some hands-on experience with the context and the people who are going to be using it. And maybe the last just quick little plug piece of advice would be try to find actual problems. This is a challenge in the design world in general, where maybe we're like, technology focused, where we're like, hey, look, I have this thing. Let's figure out some way that there's a problem so that my thing can solve it. So kind of inventing problems that then get solved by your thing, rather than finding some sort of weird, tricky, wicked problem and figuring out maybe how you can help out even a teeny tiny bit is much more useful than solving a problem that isn't necessarily the problem that the people are really dealing with. So that's my advice for that.
Absolutely. And just to show people real quick, we've got the Mothbox website up. Do check that out. And you've sent me a bunch of really cool photos from this year, including using the Mothbox in different environments. And I was scrolling through and trying to find the one where it's underwater. Didn't you have like an underwater application?
Oh yeah, that's not up on the website yet. Also, just because so that's just an example of a classic Dynacon mashup. So during Dynacon, we had previously made the moth box. There's our awesome student Bree Johns with our buddy from Sea Communities, Wheelon, and they're doing an insect survey of the area around where we were doing Dynacon. They spent basically most of the month studying all the insects around there and teaching the locals how to deploy these insect monitors. We left 3 of these moth boxes with them, and now there's a bunch of people, different university groups that are then getting trained by Sea Communities on how to use this. But while we were doing all this terrestrial stuff, there was a bunch of other things that came up. There was an awesome guy named Paul who's oh yeah, there's the photo. So there's a moth box under the water. And so basically we were working on a new type of moth box that was like an all-in-one, sleeker design PCB that lots of amazing people from the open source hardware association and Summit helped
Shout out
out
to
with.
Oshawa.
Shout out to Oshawa. Shout out to like Joel Murphy and a bunch of folks who helped me with these designs. And then Paul Hamilton came to Dynacon and he got so into this. He made a whole nother version of this already. And we tweaked it. Like, for instance, we found out like when I made this is my first PCB I ever made. That was like
Wow.
assembled by a factory. And it worked extremely well. There's an exception, like when you plug it in, this part explodes. But it turns out it's a part that you don't need. So it exploded itself off. Anyway,
Is
Paul
it a
made a new
capacitor?
version
What is
with
this part?
there's it's a capacitor that I kind of put in wrong. I didn't know how to do the LCSC import quite correctly. So it was a wrong capacitor and it was in the wrong orientation. And it makes a fun little flame when you first plug it in. But then it starts working after that. So we did lots of good hacking on this guy. But then we were thinking about while people were doing all the cool coral reef stuff and we were doing the insect monitoring, people were talking about how it would be cool because the people who plant those little baby corals, they have to go in and check them like at least every 2 weeks. And there's hundreds and hundreds of these tables growing all these coral saplings. So it'd be cool if there was ways to like more passively monitor what's going on. And so, I mean, we had new moth boxes, we had new cases, and we're like, me and Paula and our buddy Craig, we're like, hey, let's go see if we can sink this to the bottom of the ocean and see if it totally fails. But it didn't. It actually worked. So
Wow.
that's one of the beautiful things about open source stuff is it's modular and you can remix it, use it in places you might not want to use. We learned a lot of things, like for instance, the autofocus algorithms I used for terrestrial life not working as well for under the sea. It kept trying to focus deep into the infinity, into the abyss. So our photos of fish were very blurry. But those are things that can be tweaked. But these are things you learn when you do wacky, fun stuff with your tools.
Amazing. We've got some great comments coming in, by the way, from previously. I just have to like highlight this one again. Fish TV repeating your line about open source is the best, we're all gonna die should be a sticker. I honestly agree. I would totally use that. Cyber garbage, which I believe is Sid, or is that I think it's Sid. To get to work, Fish TV. We gotta get those stickers. Please correct me about which of you folks that is. I know it's one of you. I think it's Sid.
I think it's
I may
Sid.
be wrong.
Hey,
Okay,
Sid.
cool. We often have them on like both at the same time and at but two wonderful humans with very different personalities that are both luminous humans. Anyway,
And Fish TV's Lee.
And Sid and Lee are the other directors of Dynacon this year.
There we go. Thank you, Sid, for
actually got all four of us right now.
cyborg garbage. Lee says we're different people. Sid has hair. I know you're different people. I just forget which because you're also Lee Borg. That's
oh yeah,
it's not my
Borgs,
fault.
double Borgs.
So we've also got someone watching from Edinburgh. Hashtag moths and all, which was where they had the.
Oh, I thought that was hashtag moth sandal, and I was confused. I don't know what a moth. Anyway, much more sense.
So lots of cool stuff on the moth box website, which I will add to the description, by the way. Everyone, if you are excited about any of these things, scroll down to the description of the video and we've got links to besides, like, of course, all the Dynacon stuff, and then also that EDGE AI Earth Guardians contest with a bunch of different there's suggestions for what you can do, and also like open hardware. You can use open hardware tools like OpenCV and ROS, but also like you can really use anything you want. Of course, the Dynacon website. Andy, I had to ask you about, like, is it Dynacon, is it Dynacon, is it Dynalab? And this leads into one of the things that you both brought to show us. So please,
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to take it away.
So it's it's the Digital Naturalism Conference. I guess technically, if you're doing this acronym, where this is the style of acronyms they do often in Panama, where it's the first syllables of things smashed up together. So it's
They
like
also do that in
China
Indonesia
Lab.
too.
We used to
Ah,
do it
yeah,
in
cool.
California. Patelco is Pacific Telephone Company.
Ah,
I was shocked by that.
so yeah. So I guess technically, since it's digital naturalism, it should be Dynacon. But it's more fun to say Dynacon because it makes you think about dinosaurs or dynamos, right, Paula?
Right?
Yeah,
Yay!
let me get you both on the screen.
Yay.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's both.
Shout out to
This was
William. Yeah.
this is an awesome project by a classic dinosaur, William Kennedy. You might know him online as Freaky Lamps, who did like 8 different workshops at Dynacon, including two full musical concerts.
Whoa.
But one of his projects was this is a really cool contactless dynamo that you can make yourself. And so it uses you put this near your bicycle wheel,
Oh
and
yeah.
your bicycle wheel, being typically aluminum, resists magnetism, causes these eddy currents, which then actually causes this wheel to spin even without it touching. And then it spins and gives you some power. And so you get a cool little light, and you can hook up whatever you want to it. But William did some really great workshops. This was like 10% of what William did, and it was already amazing. And shout out to we're going to eventually have a proceedings. So every Dynacon, we compile everyone's projects into a big book that gets published freely, openly, so you can see how to build everything yourself. Because everything's open source. Because why? We're
Because
all
you're gonna
going to
die
die. That's
someday.
We're all gonna die.
We'll work on that. Next year we'll have a fully workshopped like unison uh, yelling thing. So as you mentioned, you can find this openly both on dynacon.org and then the books tab in there, and then also there is the Dynachronicle you can already find.
Oh
On
yeah,
the
you want to
Internet
tell them about
Archive.
the Dynachronicle, Paula?
Sure. This is a weekly, it was because our conference is long enough to have a weekly publication. We had 4 Dynachronicles published throughout the week where people would submit anything based off of their work or anything they saw, some classifieds, as you can see, some puzzles. There's fish bingo, also known as fingo. And yeah, shout out to Lee and for doing all these Dana Chronicles, and also to Sid as well. Yay. And also to Pocari Sweat. And basically every week there would be basically this publication of all these amazing things that just happened, and now they are all online and available for you to see what happened.
Yeah, if you just click on the books tab, you can see the download it right now links and
Man.
read it on the Internet Archive and stuff. Really wonderful.
Yeah. Plug for the Internet Archive. It's a great place to store PDFs. It'll generate these nice little embeddable previews of any kind of PDFs, and yeah, do a good job.
Yeah, the aspect ratio is so interesting here. It works so well on a horizontal screen like this.
Yeah, you can
That
read
is
4
cool.
pages at once.
Good stuff. Oh. Okay. Okay. I have to move on. So, let's see. I had a random question. This is going off on a little bit of a tangent, but you talked about how like the aluminum resists the eddy currents, and that's what causes the wheel to turn even without touching, which is super cool. Does that mean that like you could use a sort of gravity generator if you? Because is that the same thing that happens when you drop a magnet through a copper tube and it goes all slow motion? Because
Yeah, exactly.
what it I've heard of gravity generators where you like use human power to hoist something up and then let it drop, which I guess is probably faster anyway. But like, it seems like you could use that for a generator somehow. This is a thing I should develop on my own time because I got a lot to ask you about. Okay, so how did Mothbox get started?
Sorry, what'd you say?
How did Mothbox get started?
Oh, the Mothbox. So it got started. So again, I'll hold up. Here's a cute little Mothbox, buddy. The Mothbox got started about 2 years ago, working with forest reforestation people here in Panama. There's whole swaths of Panama that got severely deforested, in part because of all the U.S. troops in the 40s who really wanted hamburgers and got everyone to chop down the rainforest to grow cows. And so the past 80 years, there was a lot of cows pastures that completely decimated or destroyed a lot of rainforest. And so now this land is so barren that people can't even grow cows there anymore. And so a lot of the farmers are trying to find other ways to do things. And so there's a couple of reforestation NGOs and companies that want to try to actually reforest stuff. But one of the key things I keep trying to impress on people is that despite what anyone tells you, we do not know how to create healthy forests. Again, like once something's been chopped down, like we can plant trees, we can do other things. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy. And 90% of all tree planting groups in the world just plant huge monocultures of non-native trees. So it's not restoring an ecosystem, it's just growing trees, which aren't necessarily bringing the bugs back, the animals, restoring the mycorrhizae and the soil. And so scientists are now starting to try to like, well, maybe we should figure out how we can reforest areas properly. And so some of these groups are trying to figure out what are good, combinations of native trees to plant that will bring insects back and bring biodiversity back. But they have thousands and tens of thousands of hectares at a time that they need to survey. And so if you want to look at biodiversity, one of the things you really want to look at is insects, because half of all species on Earth are insects, which is nuts. 1 in 5 creatures in terms of species is a beetle. 1 in 10 is a moth. It's bonkers. And so there's a lot of bugs to look at, and we need either a ton of PhDs right now that can identify all these bugs and hang out all night next to big lights, like thousands and thousands across Panama, or we need to start making more robots that can help single scientists survey multiple areas at the same time. And so we went with the secondary option. So trying to make more robots. And yeah, that's where it kind of came from. And then shout out to wildlabs.net, which is a really cool forum. By the way, if you're working on the EDGE AI challenge, go to wildlabs.net and bounce your ideas around there. It's a forum of all kinds of amazing conservationists, technologists, helpful people who will help give you feedback, help tell you real world challenges that they're dealing with. And they have a couple different funding opportunities too. They even right now have this thing called the Boring Award, where they want to give out, they want to give out money for doing boring things. So this means like not flashy, like, ooh, I have my cool robot that's got disco lights in it, but more like, I need $1,000 to draw 10,000 rectangles around bugs over the next 3 months. Kind of things that are traditionally, or like maintaining software, things that aren't necessarily sexy, and don't tend to get as much funding. So big shout out to Wild Labs, and apply to the Boring Award, Boring Fund right now.
Yeah, we've got 6 days left on that. Amazing.
Yeah.
So EDGE AI Earth Guardians, people have until Friday the 15th to apply for $500 on PCB prototyping, and then you can also apply to the Boring Fund by the 19th of August in 6 days. If you've got a cool conservation project, this is like the perfect time to pull your stuff together and submit it out. That's amazing. So cool. I have to show people really quick. I looked up that William Kennedy Freaky Lamps person.
Yeah, William, he's got great style.
That's incredible. Dang. Wow. Okay. That's gonna require further exploration later on. Super cool. Paula, I'd love to ask you a little bit about Chibitronics, which is something that you've worked on previously, and how that continues to inform the things that you're doing, or what experiences you've brought to that project that you continue to use.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I have always been into sort of digital fabrication, the intersection between the digital and the physical. And Chibitronics, if you don't already know, is a great company. Jiqi and Bunny Huang, former co-founders, and Jiqi now basically runs the whole thing. They work on creating these educational LED stickers and basically experiences about how to create circuits with paper. And so, yeah, it's basically right there. You just need a battery, some conductive tape, like copper tape or fabric conductive tape, and these LED stickers, which have both an LED and a resistor already built into them. You just stick it on and it lights up, and it's a really, really fun, easy way to learn about simple circuits. And also, they have lots of cool different lights now, like rainbow, blinky, and the coolest thing that I learned is that there's like a little microcontroller like built in that controls the lighting inside the LED, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I was working on a software tool to basically like CAD for paper circuits, where teachers and students, they could draw out a circuit on their computer first and kind of also simulate it to see if it was working. And then they could print out the template, and then you can actually just use that template to print, to build your circuit. So it was a really cool way to like experiment and prototype with paper circuits. And that is coming out soon or now. I think you can find it at sketcher.chibitronics.com, which is really exciting. And so, yeah, feel free to try it out. And yeah, so I brought some of the Chibitronics circuit stickers to Dynacon, taught a little bit of a paper circuits workshop, and we also just had a lot of fun playing with little LEDs and things like that. And it was cool to see that, some of the participants who ended up making the circuits ended up using their LEDs in their projects. Like I know Paivi made a beautiful, she works on glass sculptures. Normally she finds glass, sea glass, so like glass that washes in from the ocean, and then she creates new sculptures from that sea glass. And so she made a little glowing glass object, which is really cool. And it's just so fun to see all these collaborations, like people kind of like getting inspired by different workshops and being like, oh, I can do something like that with this thing. Or like, for example, I used to go back to the William also made these plant lamps, which are really cool. You create a lamp and there's like plant leaves all around it, and then ended up working with another longtime Dynacon dinosaur, Palm, to make a recycled plastic jellyfish that lit up as well, and that was really fun. Plant and gel lamp, yeah.
I really want to dig through these photos. Wait, is this? No, this is much larger. This is a different thing. Pardon me. I'm like pulling up some of the.
Oh yeah, I think there's a photo that there's a whole concert going on. Oh, that's the fish lamp. That's a flamp.
Amazing. Let me pull up the. You said there's another one that. Oh, I see a jellyfish.
Yeah, you'll see like a floaty jellyfish on one of those. Oh, that's DinnerCon. People tend to get into food. There tends to be whole unofficial trends. I mean, maybe it's official now, of lots of food collaborations. So there's a great guy named Hatz who's always very into food. Palm, the artist who did the fish, the upcycled fish lamp, is also really into food, and they were blending Thai and Slovenian foods with
Wow.
local food customs and working together to make a whole dinner con inside of Dynacon. So there'll be whole giant events that will kind of spring up and collaborations. And perhaps one of our biggest and craziest collaborations this year was the whole Arca Canary crew came over. So William made this, and they're a band that floats around on a boat. And William and Palm made this whole awesome jellyfish lamp out of garbage, but that helped decorate the stage for this concert that got put on at the last moment. Paula, you want to tell them about the whole Arca Canary arc
Wow.
that we
Sure.
had?
The Arca Canary arc. Yeah. Arca Canary is a boat that these musicians and artists sail around the world in. The main people are Philistine, who's an electronic musician, and Nova, who's also a musician from Indonesia. Philistine's from the US. And they basically, as they were getting really popular and they had a lot of worldwide tour events, they realized that they wanted to find ways to go around the world without having expending the carbon footprint of flying in planes. So they made the decision to get a ship and sail around the world in the ship. They have solar on the ship. It's a super sustainable boat situation, and they actually sailed into the village and were going to stay there with their boat for a bit, but the waves were a little bit too rocky, so they ended up sailing somewhere else to stow their boat. But then they came back for this performance, and they put on this wonderful performance about their journey and also about their climate activism work. They work with a nonprofit in Indonesia called Lintas Batas, and they also came and were part of Dynacon to put on these sort of like wild food foraging, plant foraging workshops that then they turned into a whole meal. It was not part of Dynacon. It was a different meal experience, but you can see that there's a lot of interest in mixing sort of the arts, activism, music, technology, all this stuff together at Dynacon.
Wow. I wasn't able to intuit how to spell Arca Canary,
Yes.
but this looks like Lintus Batas here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Lintas Batas and also Arca Canary.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was just amazing. We just kind of had this like last minute full on incredible concert. They also started it with a whole gamelan performance, and some local gamelan groups and dancers came out. It was just one incredible evening of 30 that were just all amazing.
Dang.
Oh yeah, there's
This
the
looks
scene. So you
amazing.
can see the Jalamp floating above Philistine and Nova while they were performing, and they had like video art that was projecting that kind of tells the story of their trip and how they developed their band. You can see another cool lamp over to the right that was made by Astia, a cool designer from the Netherlands. That also was it used the local sea salt to make cool patterns underneath the lamp. It was amazing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that
Yeah.
is
Looks like
also
is that this maybe?
Oh,
that's
that's
go ahead.
I
a
can tell
that's
there's
a
like 8
different
different things I can
concert.
go to.
So that was what KJ. There's a cool artist named KJ who does a lot of really interesting work with water and like sensing water. So he was projecting cool projections into this pool that we built for we had there's another famous musician called the Cubbabutt Boys,
What?
which Cubbabutt means moth in Balinese. And so the Cup Boys actually gave 2 performances at Dynacon, which was incredible. They had a revival performance. It was basically super incredible. And William Kennedy was one of the Cup Boys, but part of the set decoration. KJ set up this cool interactive visualizations that would project through this pond that became part of the stage surface you could dance around in.
Wow.
And he even did some really cool stuff with basically like a swept frequency capacitive touch in the water. So you could touch different areas of the water and it would know which parts of like a pond you were responding to with very cheap, ultra cheap sensors, basically just like 4 wires. It was really cool.
Oh, and thank you, by the way, to Ginger jumping in on the chat to tell me actually, I think it was you, Andy, maybe, telling me the proper spelling of Arca Canari. So we've got that on the screen now. Although it's a little difficult to see. I may not be loading all the images, perhaps, but so much cool stuff here. I wanted to also ask you about the picture that I used, I grabbed from you for the video thumbnail, which I'm going to pull up here in just a second. But in the meantime, we've got some cool comments from people jumping in with Plamp, Jellamp, Flamp, Dynacon. And then we've got Ginger jumping in with Gamelan. And lots of people getting excited about the Boring Fund and the EDGE AI Earth Guardians contest. Very cool. Okay, let me pull up this image real quick just to make sure we cover it. We've got about 10 minutes left, and there's so much stuff, as per usual. But the nice thing is that y'all are very, very collaborative. So actually, before we jump into that, y'all keep mentioning dinosaurs as this collective noun for the people at Dynacon, which I think is amazing. And so obviously, publishing stuff open source is incredibly central to the whole purpose of this conference. Bringing things forward in a way that's actually useful and usable. I'm curious about ways that you keep people connected around, at other times of the year, how you end up reaching out to new people, and also if there's any outside projects that have grown larger or really taken off from things that came out of Dynacon. Like whether that be like academia or like products.
You want to go first or me, Paula? Whatever you want.
You go first.
Cool.
Okay. I mean, one of the coolest things is, when some of these projects can keep going and have this life that goes outside of Dynacon. One of the coolest things is during Dynacon 3 in Sri Lanka, there was a really talented group of folks with the local partners we worked with called the group was called Dream Space Academy there.
Ooh.
And they were basically kind of like an incubator for fostering all kinds of really talented, young, brilliant folks doing stuff like coding or music or science or doing all kinds of different cool stuff. But one of the groups there did music, and one of the folks doing the music there is named Dinoj. And Dinoj connected up with another, so there's many streams, kind of recurring themes that'll happen in Dynacons. There's a lot of people who get really into paper, especially, Sid pushing lots of paper stuff. There's a lot of people who get into food, but music is another kind of recurring theme, that there'll be lots of people from different parts of the world really interested in doing different amazing music stuff. And Dinoj connected up with Lucy and Sumu, and they started, what was their group called? The Rhythm Reapers. And they started making cool music at Dynacon 3. Lucy and Sumo actually went back to Sri Lanka in between, and they did more like workshops and music workshops together. And then we got Dinoj to join us back with Lucy and Sumu in Bali. And then Dinoj connected with some of the local Balinese folks from sea communities, and they wrote just beautiful, incredible songs together. They have this one banger, Dom Dom Reapers. Yeah, exactly. But they made these incredible songs about the beauty of Bali. And so yeah, it's just cool to see these like musical groups keep going. Um, uh, yeah, the Cupabutt Boys actually evolved from there's a group called Nandri and the Wanacoms that started in Sri Lanka, but then broke up, but then got back together under a new name. So yeah, exactly. There you can see Sumu and Dinoge and doing all kinds of great stuff together. It's super cool.
And I'm
So
guessing
like
that this is maybe hosted on like a solar powered server or something. It looks like it's in power saving mode. So cool.
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Please go on. Sorry.
Yeah, Sumu even like hosted like a local pirate radio station while we were there. It was
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
I will have to check this out. Oh, that's so cool. And just real quick, a couple things that you mentioned. The paper is here we go. Solar panels embedded in paper. What?
Yeah, what?
It's
So yeah,
awesome.
Sid and Lee were working on these cool funky papers. What were you saying, Paula?
Oh, I was just saying it's awesome. I'm such a fan.
Yeah. We've also got a couple of questions. Let's see. About Albert. Oh, hey, Albert Aguirre, asking about whoa, that sounds like an amazing project. I'd love to replicate it. Do y'all have a link for that water project? The one with the reflecting off the water, and also that in general, like the response that they have a whole post on Wild Labs about asking questions. Also that in terms of like one of the previous okay, so there's a question about like how to get involved with the boring fund, and that's where you can follow up on that. We'll show it again at the end of the hour, but then also in terms of Albert's question, stay tuned for the proceedings book. Again, if you go to dynalab.org, or sorry, dynacon.org, you click on books at the top, and you can find all the proceedings, the newspapers published on the Internet Archive, and hold out for the proceedings book, which will be a sort of compilation of everything. I don't want to stop us, but we do have another question that we'll get to at the end. So, yeah, paper stuff, real cool. Food things. You sent me so many amazing photos, including Paula here with some of these
Oh yeah.
indigo dye, which we got to get into too.
Yeah.
But I
Thanks
was
to
asking,
Lee and Alex for that.
mm, but I
I'm
wanted
wearing
to
an
make sure.
indigo dyed shirt right now as well. Woo!
Yes, the OHS shirt dyed with indigo, amazing. Um, Paul, I wanted to get your thoughts on the ongoing collaboration side of this and projects that have come out of Dynacon and into the
Yeah.
real world. Or no, what I meant to say was into the broader world, because it is like very much focused on building in the real world and the
For
environment.
sure, yeah. Yeah, I was really I loved when we have a in Bali there was a local Fab Lab called Fab Lab Bali. And one of the members of the Fab Lab came, his name is Eka, uh, and he
Of the
came
glue.
and no, different Eka,
Oh, different.
sorry,
Okay.
two Ekas. And he came and taught the community about 3D printing and also plastic bottle recycling.
Mm.
And so he even 3D printed this basically a plastic bottle stripper. You can like it's
Oh
a
yeah.
little gadget that you can like pull the strips out of, and that was really amazing because Naya from Bali, from Sea Communities, uh, basically all the locals were super excited about all the different ways to recycle plastic and to use a 3D printer. They now have 3D printers there, sort of like they're able to, they were able to take some of them and now they're using them as well. And Ketut Naya from Sea Communities also then took the bottle stripper and basically wove this intricate purse out of it. It was really cool. And I took a photo, but I don't have it with me. But so it was just really exciting to see the excitement kind of continue on. And they to have the 3D printer, they can print more plastic shredders. They can, or the bottle strippers. They can also print other things for their organic garden that they need. There was also a whole like spirulina thanks to Elliot, spirulina workshop, where the organic garden already had a spirulina farming project, but I think Elliot really helped them kind of like figure out new processes for their spirulina farming, and are working on expanding it. So it was just super cool to see basically like the community like connect with these different makers from all around the world, and learn. And then also like even like Lintas Batas and sea communities, they're both in Indonesia, but they never met before. So like they were definitely like, this is the beginning of a new collaboration. So I'm sure we'll hear more from those communities and collaborations in the future.
Oh, that is so cool. There's a bunch of links I wanted to show real quick with relating to what you're talking about. We've got the Fab Lab Bali page. Shout out to the Fab Labs. This isn't probably the same person, but just to give people a little bit of a visual about what the bottle stripper object is, it's sort of like you have a blade mounted onto an assembly, and you have the bottle mounted on something that turns. Basically, you mount the bottle so that it goes through these bearings and has this blade that like cuts it into strips. Then also here's a the song. Is this a song?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
On the next image is a QR code that you could
Oh,
scan.
sweet.
Yeah, for the music.
Wonderful. I'll leave that up for a second, but also Andy sent over the link for getting in contact so that you can stay in touch. So everyone take your chance to screenshot this. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, contact page. Go to dynalab.net/contact, and you can sign up for the mailing list to get all the updates and stuff. And this relates to a question from Ginger about where is Dynacon 5 going to be next year? Or is it next year?
It's a great question.
So, okay, the easy answer for that is it's not happening next year.
Okay, there we go.
We're only able to muster up the strength to pull this off every 2 years at the quickest, most likely maybe every 3 years. And then where that is, we don't know yet. We're still recovering from the current Dynacon, getting the documentation together, things like that. But we are compiling lists of there's people who are excitedly already messaging us like, hey, I know this cool place where there's beautiful nature. You can get there and, have 40 people at a time, hang out, building stuff together. So, send us stuff. You can message us on that same contact page. We'll add it to our list of considerations for where we might do the next Dynacon. Generally, we try to switch like hemispheres every year so that people who maybe weren't able to travel all the way over to that part of the world will have more of an opportunity. We've never yet had an Arctic Dynacon. There's been lots of interest in non-tropical, potentially quite cold Dynacon. I'm down with that. But yeah, wherever.
Awesome. All right. So thank you for answering that. And then we've just got this final thing I wanted to ask about. Well, okay, we have some good comments here. It's wicked cool what Dino and Sumo are cooking up, and the solar panel stuff too. Want to get into it too? Yes, this is so inspiring. There's so much cool stuff going on. Jay chimes in. Dynacon 2029 Moonbase and 2027 Antarctica. Yeah.
I wanted to do a Dynacon that's entirely under the sea, like a sea lab.
Absolutely. There's a picture you sent me of a kite flying, like a box kite under the sea. We don't have
Paula
time to
took
get into
that
that.
photo.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna pull it up, but next time we'll have to get into that.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. I've also got. I'm gonna show you all the song of the summer again, thanks to a comment from Cyborg Garbage, aka said. Once again, go check out Polly Ayu, the song of the summer from the EP Gamelan mode. All right, and then finally, I swore. Okay, so here's the kite picture. Kite under the water. What? Next time, not right now. We don't have time. But I put this in the video thumbnail. We have to talk about it. What's going on?
This
That's
is the
go for it, Paula.
yeah, this is the Braille wrap.
Wow.
The Braille wrap is an open source hardware which got certified here at Dynacon. A machine to print Braille onto lots of different kinds of surfaces. As you can see, banana leaves and cardstock, also aluminum metal sheets. And you can check it out. You can build one of your own. It was really cool to see. I saw Stefan building it and then like creating a bunch of different Braille. So yeah, that was so cool.
I'm so curious about this because it looks like the dots are raised, but it also looks like it's being sort of pushed, like imprinted or embossed or debossed somehow. Like if the moving part's on top, how is it raised?
It's a Braille making machine that has synchronized stepper motors, and it has an anvil and a hammer.
So
they move and they can make Braille. So they emboss Braille things into, this is like a cardstock. This is a photo from, this is actually a photo from me messaging the Dynacon group that somebody tried putting Braille onto a leaf. This is a cool project by Mariana. But the leaf got snagged, and so it started ripping it up. And then it was just, yeah. So later, Mariana was able to do the kind of Braille embossing on a banana leaf, but this was a beautiful failure, let's say. But it makes raised bumps, and you can put, so this is on paper, but even cooler is you can do it to like recycled like aluminum cans. So chop the top and end off of an aluminum can, load that flat piece of aluminum in there, and then you have a weather resistant Braille sign that you can create. It's super cool. So yeah, it's the Braille wrap.
Yeah, and Paula mentioned the aluminum, and I was picturing like a thicker aluminum plate, but this makes total sense. And so what I couldn't see here is that you have opposed and matched moving elements on both sides, like you mentioned, an anvil on one side and a striker on the other, something like that.
Yeah, so there's a solenoid with a striker underneath it.
Which I'm sure helps create these sort of lovely dome shapes, so that like if you're doing it with aluminum, then since you're pushing it into a dome shape on the other side, you're not going to end up with these like sharp pieces and stuff that would
yeah, you don't get punctures or perforations. You just get nice finger friendly dents.
Love this. And he's been putting the names of these things, Braille wrap, in the comments and things like that.
Lee actually did a really cool project with the Braille wrap where Lee has a really good write-up. You'll be able to find more about this, but about like basically like visually impaired explorations of the ocean and how to different ways of exploring under the sea with in a low vision people. And at the end, Lee took some of the fish descriptions and actually embossed them onto some of these aluminum. So there's like Braille versions of these fish descriptions. So anyway, it's a really beautiful project that was very multifaceted. And I'll see if I can find the link to it.
That is so cool. I'm going to have to drop that in the description to the video. Usually it's I think it's harder to update the description on LinkedIn, but if you'll check this out on YouTube after the fact, I'll have those links in here. All right, I already pushed us overtime with making sure I asked about that, but it's such a cool photo, and I'm really glad that we went into it. Thank you for indulging me. So it's time to wrap up. I'm going to take us back through all of our links again so that people can see all the stuff about Dynacon and such. But if you would like to think about any wrap-up comments that either of you or both of you would like to make, we can get to those in a second. So I'll take us through all our open tabs here. I have a whole other window full of them that I haven't, I'm not going to click through, but saving for later. But we've got dynacon.org, which is the main conference webpage. And of course, dynalab.net is the ongoing page for the laboratory. right here. Goals to help field biologists build their own experimental tools, help designers explore new interactions with nature, discover new ways of experiencing the natural world. So much about like contextual crafting and wild hacking and stuff like that. We've got the EDGE AI Earth Guardians contest that's going on right now with the EDGE AI Foundation and Next PCB, using machine learning on low power microcontroller type devices or anything that can be deployed at the edge in the physical world with models and things on board in order to help help make the world a better place. We've got a few examples of different interactions that you can do with it, but you are not limited to these. You can use any technologies. You can do wildlife anti-poaching, forest health monitoring, marine ecosystem monitoring, and anything that your heart can imagine. And then you can win trips to Taiwan and things like that to present your projects. We've also got the Boring Fund from wildlabs.net that's going on right now, and Andy also mentioned that this is a great place to bounce ideas off of people like who have been doing work in the real world, so that what you're building is informed by what the constraints of different environments and what the world actually needs, and things that people have already explored, so you can stand on the shoulders of giants and build on what people have already done and contribute back to that. You've got 6 days to apply for a $1,000 grant to I think that's correct anyway.
You can
Please
apply
double check
for
me.
up to $12,000.
Woo!
It's like, yeah, 1 to 12,000. So, yeah, small or larger projects.
Beautiful. With support of ARM, they're contributing up to $80,000 total uh, in grants. So you got 6 days to apply to that. Amazing. If you're curious about what's been going on at Dynacon events, multiple ones of them, you can go to dynacon.org, click on books, and you'll see the beautiful bound books that have been made of previous iterations. You can also click through to the Internet Archive and read through the Dyna Chronicle weekly newsletter from the newspaper from the different years. And then, of course, at dynalab.net/contact, you can go get in touch, sign up for the mailing list so that you know when the next one will be and where it's going to be, whether that be Antarctica or the North Pole or a moon base. Yeah. And of course, check out Mothbox and the Song of the Summer. Bali Ayu, and then there's these other music things we mentioned as well, which I will put in the description because there's way too much cool stuff to go through in all these local organizations.
There's a lot. Yeah.
So much. All right. Okay. Have you thought about any wrap up thoughts from either of you?
I will just say thank you to all the participants who came. Thank you to our hosts since Bali, Sea Communities. Thank you to Gary, Lu, Komang, Wira, everyone else. And this has been such a wonderful experience, Dynacon. And I really want to find more communities like this. So also if you're in Seattle, or if you know anyone based in Seattle who is interested in digital naturalisms or wanting to hack or make stuff, let me know. I'm sure there's communities out there. That's where I'm based right now. So hit me up.
Awesome. Sweet.
Yeah, and I think for me, a very similar thing. This was just one of the most incredible Dynacons we've ever had. They've all been really amazing. But the group Sea Communities that we worked with was just some of the sweetest, nicest, most caring people. And yeah, if you're ever interested in running an event in one of the coolest places ever in Southeast Asia, hit us up and we can connect you with Sea Communities. They're incredible hosts, and we'll give you unbelievable experiences where everyone will learn way more than they thought they would have. So yeah, check out Sea Communities and stay tuned for the proceedings books that we'll share. Because it's chock full. We only got the surface of lots of the projects that people were pulling out during this year's Dynacon. It was really incredible what everyone was up to, and so yeah, please check that out. It's a fun book. It's going to be really cool.
And you also sent me, thank you. I'm sorry that we had an issue with posting links in the comments later on, but you sent me this Lee Wilkins's article about using the braille wrap for low vision on underwater exploration and the fish labels and stuff. So I'll put that in the description as well. Whoa! This is a wild image of like a large, many-fanged fish eating some smaller organisms.
It's a really good read. That's from historical projects of some of the first ocean explorers who had to go underwater and just describe fish to artists above, while they were in like a diving bell with oxygen pumped into it with like a telephone connected.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild. Oh, look at this. Okay.
So yeah, there's modern incarnations.
There's so much cool stuff coming out of this. This is what happens when you get a month-long conference. I love that you are so dedicated to documenting all of this, because that is, it gets so overwhelming. And then, even just thinking later on about what to share is massive. So thank you both so much for joining. It's really cool to get to chat with you a little bit more, both of you. And of course, everyone in the audience who either watched along or dropped comments and questions in the chat and stuff. Some cool familiar faces, some new people getting excited about the contests and the funds and stuff that are coming out of this. Be sure to check those deadlines, and you can get trips, you can get funding, you can get free PCBs, you can get all this cool stuff. Love to see all the energy around this. Thank you folks so much.
Yeah.
Thank
you.
Cheers,
really
everybody.
fun.
Yeah. Just jumping in and say thanks.